All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 10th, 2021 awards meeting. We do have a quorum. We've got Stephen Datz, Ricky Erickson, and Hai Vu in person, and Joe Arfano and Jordan Pope sitting in for Laura Dutton remotely today. OGC is represented by Julie Davis, and budget is represented by Stephanie Neely. Before we get started, I'll ask if there's any public comment. Do we have any public comment in the room or emails that came in prior to the meeting?
Neither.
Okay, great. Are there any public comments on the agenda for today on the call? All right, seeing none, we'll go to our agenda. We have items 1 and 3 through 5. Item 2 is deferred. They've all been reviewed by procurement and budget and are ready for the awards committee review. What we'll do is we will roll call. I will review each award individually. I will ask for a motion in a second to approve the award, and then we'll roll call through the committee to get individual approvals. So we'll start with the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was the 3rd, June 3rd. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 3rd?
Or five, so moved.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Hai. We'll roll call through the committee to approve the meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2021, starting with Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Hai Vu.
Approved.
Ricky Erickson.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
And Jordan Pope.
Approved.
Thank you. Award number 3 is a change order. This is for our Bradley Road Booster Pump Station project. Williams Industrial, Inc. is our awardee, our original awardee, and the recommended change order amount is $181,336.03. We are expected this project to be completed in October of this year. And just for some background, we came to the awards committee for approval back in October of 2019, and just over a little over $7.8 million. Since then, we had some change orders that we approved for differing conditions, and we have it listed in the box above. But we did those in September of 2020 and then again in April of 2021. So this request and this change order, there was a determination during construction that the existing 36-inch effluent valve needed to be replaced. So this change order will cover that discoverable item during construction. Do we have any comments or questions on award number 3?
Stephen Datz,
can we get a motion?
To approve.
Thanks, Stephen. Can we get a second?
Hai Vu, second.
Thanks, Hai. We'll roll call through the committee to approve award number 3, starting with Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Hai Vu.
Approved.
Ricky Erickson.
Approved.
Joe Arfano.
Approved.
And Jordan Pope.
Approved.
Thank you. Award number 4, this is a developer agreement for E-Town E8 parcel reclaim water transmission project. This is approximately 3,200 linear feet of 30-inch reclaim water main with associated fittings and valves by the developer Toll Southeast LP Company under the assignment of the E-Town agreement. So Toll Southeast LP Company is working, they went and bid this out, and we received 6 bids, and it looks like Jack's Dirt Works, Inc. was the lowest bidder of the 6 in the amount of $855,671.70. They followed the procurement laws to publicly bid this, and it looked like it came in about 38% under what we were originally estimating. Do we have any questions or comments?
Jenny, are you referring to the $900,000 estimate?
Dan, are you on, Dan? Can you answer Stephen's question? I see where he's coming from. Is that
This is
award
David.
estimate right?
This is
Oh,
David. That
David.
was the 900,000 was the budgeted amount. It wasn't the construction estimate was 1.3 million.
Okay.
Okay.
And as we typically see with these developer agreements and cost participation is that Jack's Dirt Works is one of the vendors already working out there. So we typically see lower costs due to not having to pay additional mobilization or additional work fees.
Thanks, David. Any other questions or comments?
Just for continuity, should we update the award estimate?
We can either update it to 1.3 or we can put in parentheses that that was our budget estimate.
I'm fine either way.
Okay, we'll update it.
Jenny, this is I think to clarify, we just say that 30% was less than JEA's construction estimate, because that was done by our actual estimators, and then the budget was separate items.
Okay, we'll change the wording.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll just take out approximately 38%, and then we'll keep our 900,000. Let's put in parentheses that that's our budget amount.
All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other thoughts or comments? All right, can we get a motion to approve award number 4?
I move, so moved.
Gordon Pope,
Thanks,
affirmative.
Ty. Thanks, Joe. We'll roll call through the committee to approve award number 4, starting with Haivu.
Approved.
Joe Arfano,
Approved.
Jordan Pope,
Approved.
Stephen Datt,
Approved.
and Ricky Erickson.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, our last award, I want to spend some time talking about this with the committee. This is a contract amendment. This is for our 3-phase, single-phase pad mount, pole-mounted, and miscellaneous transformers that we keep in our inventory stock. We brought this to the committee back at the beginning of May, and we were successfully able to execute contracts with Wesco and with WEG transformers. But part of the original award was with Irby, Stuart Irby Co., and their manufacturers that they work with, there's 2 different ones. They were not willing to move forward with an agreement with Irby, so Irby could not sign the contract with us. So we've been in discussions with Irby, and basically their manufacturers won't move forward without a market adjustment at the time of signing the contract. Our solicitation stated that we would do that 3 months into the contract, so they would hold pricing, and then 3 months in we would adjust to market. So we went back to all top 3 ranked bidders and asked them what it would take to move forward with a contract extension for Irby's work. So what we basically saw was a very common request, which was to allow pricing to be adjusted to the market at the time of contract execution. So all of the manufacturers were willing to work with JEA on this, but one of Irby's, which was Central Maloney, and they're a smaller one, and they were requesting a 40% increase, which we did not. It doesn't align with the market, and we weren't willing to work with them on that. So what we did is we went back and re-looked at how the ranking was if we adjusted to the market at the time of execution, giving them the increase up front. And basically the way it falls out is they just become new high ranked just within the IRB portion of the contract that was awarded to them. And so when we look at single phase pad mount transformers, what we're requesting here, and I'll go through all of the table of the recommended awardees in a second, but what we're requesting is a 60% to Gresco and a 40% to Tri-State. And what that does for us and what we want to try to accomplish here is to have two different suppliers that we can go to with just the crazy market conditions that we have. And so we can buy off of Gresco and off of Tri-State on all of the items on that bid tab for the single phase pad mount transformers. Also, what it does is Gresco was ranked was ranked the highest after we reconciled the pricing, but their lead times are the longest in the industry. And so this also allows us with Tri-State, who had the shortest lead times in the industry currently, to be able to do some immediate orders with Tri-State. And then we've got a pretty long forecast that we're going to have to be planning, and so we will be splitting the work between Gresco and Tri-State at that point. But this allows us to try to take advantage of the earlier lead times with Tri-State. So that is the single phase pad mount. And we've talked to both Gresco and we've talked to Tri-State, and they're both willing to take the partial award. So it'll be, Gresco is still going to be our primary. They'll hold the storm stock for us, but Tri-State we're going to take advantage of some of those earlier lead times because we are experiencing quite a bit of extensions on those, where we typically see 8 to 10 weeks in the past. Gresco's are at 38 weeks right now, and Tri-State's at about 20 to 24 weeks. So we're trying to give JEA as much flexibility as possible when we're working through this crazy market that we're in currently. So the pad mount transformers, IRB had the majority of that with GE and only a very small portion with Central Maloney. So even with the market adjustment, IRB was still the lowest price, and they're the ones that have been with us for quite some time during storm season. Gresco and IRB are really good partners with us during storm season. So we're going to allow IRB to keep that portion of the work with their market adjustment. And then the part that Central Maloney had, we are going to award to Wesco, who was our next highest ranked, and allow them to also make the market condition adjustment at the time of signing. So because of the kind of the way that the pole mount transformers are split, when we were looking at trying to do backup suppliers, we were able to, Wesco agreed to back up IRB, which is great because that's like 80%, and then Wesco has the other portion. So we can go to Wesco for any of these transformers if we needed to, if we run into issues with the market with IRB or with the main award that they have. So what we did was we included a 15% estimate of the usage that IRB is being awarded, and we included that on Wesco's award, so that if we need to tap into them, they do have some cap that is not a part of their cap that we could utilize. We did go to the next ranked to back up Wesco for, kind of that smaller Central Maloney portion that we had awarded to IRB. And unfortunately, we just don't have a large volume. And so the next highest ranked was not willing to back us up. So we have backups and two suppliers for most of our transformers. There's a little portion that is, our lower volume that no one would take the risk to hold pricing in the market right now. And so to mitigate that, we can always spot buy if we need to and go to the market at the time if we see some issues that are starting to happen. That gives us flexibility if we needed to expedite, pay more, and stuff like that. So we feel comfortable after having these conversations with the vendors. Believe it's within our right to, negotiate and have these conversations, not solo with IRB, but with, the majority of the vendors as they were ranked, to allow for the, discussions to happen again. We can't be without transformer contracts. So for us to be able to reduce the risk to JEA as a whole, this was a very small risk for us to take to renegotiate and allow them to adjust pricing at the time of contract execution. So I'm going to open it up for questions in 1 second, but the way that this pans out is that Stewart Irby will, this contract amendment will deduct $9,976,492.28 from Irby's current contract. And so their new contract amount will be $7,272,266.18. If you go next to Gresco, they did not get any of the original award, and now we are contracting with them for a little over $6.3 million. WEG Transformers, they are good. We're not doing anything different here, but we just wanted to show you the original amount, and then their total contract amount stays the same. Tri-State Utility Products, the original award, they were not awarded anything, and now they will get a little over $4.3 million. And then lastly, Wesco, they were awarded a little over $13 million. We're going to add $2.6 million to bring their total to a little over $15.7 million. So I know that's a lot. I wanted to spend some time kind of discussing it and letting you know why we did what we did and how these adjustments kind of went up and down, because it is, it can be confusing with all the different players. So do you guys have questions or comments and any concerns about what you are approving today?
Could you just, Jenny, this is Stephen, could you just quickly reference how you're coming up with that $9,976,000 decrease to Stewart?
So we are taking the entire award that we gave them for the single phase pad mount, because all of that was going to Central Maloney. And then we're taking just a very small portion of the pole mount transformers from them, which is also Central Maloney. And so if you go back to our original award, we'd have to dig into the workbook for you to be able to see how we came up with that, but it's basically the portion from Central Maloney that we weren't willing to do a 40% increase on. We took that out, and that's basically what we're awarding to the others.
All right. Yeah, I just couldn't find numbers in the document that we had. Okay.
So Jenny, this is hi. So the reason we can go back and negotiate with the vendors was because the original award was an ITN. And
yes.
So my question is, if it were an IFB, would we be able to do the same thing?
That would be a conversation that we would have to have with the Office of General Counsel to see what kind of flexibility we had. We certainly would have the ability to just do emergency type awards to make sure we had these contracts in place. I think, the benefit of the ITN is that, clearly we don't ever want to have to go back and negotiate because the vendor can't sign. And we don't have bid bonds on these, right? So we're just working with the vendors as best we can to try to maintain the relationship and be able to get the product for JEA in the market that we're in right now. So this is very abnormal, but, I don't think that we, would be able to do that on an IFB. we certainly would have been able to negotiate with Irby as being the, you know, if they were, this was different because we ranked them, but if they were the lowest bid and they could only do a portion of it, we certainly could have negotiated with them. If they were still the lowest bid and they needed to increase their pricing, we'd probably have that flexibility. But as a whole, the ITN does give us the flexibility to do this.
I'm going to ask some specific questions. Sorry, Joe. So what was the market adjustment percent that you referred to? What was that percent?
It's about 9%. It's about a 9% increase. And across the board, all of them were, you know, except for Central Maloney asking for the 40%. It aligns with pretty much like the CPI, or not, it wasn't CPI. We're adjusting on a formula based off of what these transformers are made of. So aluminum, steel, copper, and what the market is looking like at that time. So that's an estimate, because when we sign the contract, we'll allow them to adjust to the market, but it's about 9%. We are forecasting 9% when we sign these, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Jenny, it's Joe, but if I'm reading this correctly, the original award was based on an increase over 8%, and now that increase is 16%, if I read that. Yes,
as a whole. I think
so,
as a whole, so we take all of the aggregate when we're looking at, you know, everything that we're adjusting to. So this is just a very small portion of it, because it's just the Central Maloney pieces that, you know, we clearly thought were going to be okay with Irby, and then they wanted the higher increase. So there's that. And then there is an additional increase for the Irby piece on the pole mounted. So it's not the full award. We're saying if you kind of dig in just to the pieces that we're allowing the changes to, it's about a 9%. But as a whole, if we look at everything.
So what happens a year from now if these metal indexes are significantly lower? Does the contract reprice downward? Do we have protection? Because I'm continuing to question the length of these contracts relative to being still in a global pandemic where we're seeing inflation pressure across the board. So do we have protection a year, 18 months from now, when I believe these commodity prices are going to come back down?
Yes. And what we do is each time we are going to be adjusting off of the base price. So you don't just keep adjusting up. You know, every time you're going to look at the market and see if it went up or down, and you're going to go back to that base price that we're starting with today and adjust it up or down from there. So it's not a continual increase over the next 18 months. Right. It's a peek into the market and an adjustment when we're doing this quarterly for this contract. We did think about trying to do a shorter term contract for this one, but we do ask them to support us during storm. And it's too hard to do a 1-year contract with a company and ask them to hold storm stock and be with us in a storm. And especially when we transition these contracts right now, it's July, they would bring all the storm stock in and then we'd have to take it, and it causes some disruption. So we thought we had a 5-year. We did. It's a good question. We had it at a...
We have some protection on the downside. The upside, I get, but these commodities are stressed right now because mines are shut down. The pandemic's created supply chain issues globally. So I want to ensure that we're not locking in these high prices for the next 3 years, is my question.
I presume the note on page 98 covered the decreases as well, right?
Okay.
It does. So we adjust to the market based off of those commodities. So when they go up or down, we're adjusting just whether it's up or down, and it's a snapshot. And we're doing it quarterly because transformers have, so they, you know, with the steel and the aluminum and the copper and all the things they're made of, those are the big ones. So we tried to pull the big ones out that fluctuate the most. The vendors still aren't happy with that, but they're more happy with that versus like a CPI adjustment.
Okay.
And I'll just note, CPI is at the highest we've ever seen. It's at 4.2 right now, which typically runs about 1.76, 2%. And so when we compare it to just a straight CPI of 4.2 to this 9%, we're very comfortable with allowing them to do that.
And I would also add, though, that there's a significant population of economists that are out there that believe that the inflation will be abated within the next year. So I'm just continue to be caution folks about not jumping to conclusions on inflation.
Right. Yes. Anywhere we can reduce the term, we are. So you'll see we did reduce one, I think it was a couple weeks ago, to 1 year. We are looking at pole line hardware. We bid it out as a 5. We're still in negotiations, so we won't discuss it, but we're looking at what that looks like. This one, we had it at a 5-year contract, and we brought it to a 3. And certainly would have liked to have done only a 1 year to see what the market did. But with the lead times at 38 weeks for some of these, you won't even, the time you order and get them in, it's going to be that year. So we're working really closely with Ricky's team to make sure that we're getting all the information we need from a planning perspective. As soon as these contracts are in place, we're going to be placing a pretty large order to forecast from 6 to 9 months, which is unheard of for us having to look at that far out, but we are, so that we can try to mitigate some of the long lead times and the issues. And we're doing a lot of spot buying right now to try to mitigate and pay expedited, shipping and trying to get slotting and stuff like that to make sure that we're not running out of stock for just daily use, because we have some that were supposed to come in and got pushed out. And so we're just trying to mitigate anywhere we can. And that's why you see some of these backups that we want to do. Typically we wouldn't, we want to have the relationship with these suppliers with the storm stock and storm season and being on site with us. But we figured a kind of a workaround right now with that. So everyone's willing to work with us because they know these are all distributors and their manufacturers are calling the shots. So we're just trying to make it fair for both sides so that we can have a good relationship. And if we don't have a good relationship with our suppliers, they're not going to be there to support us. So this is our compromise. And we feel good about this. And so hopefully we should be able to get these executed pretty quickly. We've had, quite a few discussions. So everybody's on board and ready to move forward.
Jenny, I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
So how did we arrive at the 60-40 split between Cresco and Tri-State? And then the second question is, I understand that we are awarding to Tri-State 40% because of their lead time. So what happens if they can't meet the lead time and they just end up being 30 or something weeks, just like Cresco? Do they have any means to for them to back up that requirement, the lead time promise? Since they're the distributor, like you said, they're not the manufacturer.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, good questions. We came up with the 60-40. I mean, they're pretty close in price. Tri-State's pricing was not that much higher than Irby, and with the much shorter lead times, we felt it was beneficial to bring them in as more of a secondary supplier, is what I'd call that, instead of a backup supplier, but still giving Cresco the majority. So instead of a 50-50 split, like a primary, secondary, we gave Gresco more just due to their ranking, but then also their willingness to bring in the storm stock still and all of the things that we need them to do on the back end. So, you know, we've got flexibility between those two vendors to buy any one of those items. The split is really just the contract cap that we're estimating at this point, but you know, that there wasn't a whole lot of like mathematical logic. We just wanted to have the two that we could go to at any moment to just be able to take advantage of whatever market conditions are more favorable, depending on the time when we go to order stuff. But we do have, I think the second question, you know, we really don't have recourse on these manufacturers when they move the lead times. All we can really do is, you know, work with the distributors. They've got the relationships. You know, they've also got other contracts where they, you know, might have slotting opportunities where some of their vendors don't need it right away. And so they could put us into their slotting to try to take advantage of, you know, whatever they can. They'll work with us. But the most we ask is that if the lead times move and adjust, that they just give us as much notice as possible so we can try to plan for it. And that's all we can really hold them to, unfortunately. Probably not the answer you wanted, but it's
that's part of my concern is someone can promise the world to get that contract and they don't deliver, and then JEA ends up paying more for essentially the same service. But I understand the need for multiple vendors for these critical pieces.
Yeah, and we're doing that to try to mitigate the risk that you are bringing up. So when we go to order, we'll be talking to the vendors and asking them what the current lead times are. So, you know, you're going to know at the time of the market which one has the best lead time, and those are the ones we're going to be ordering from. So, you know, it might not be the lead time that they're quoting right now because the market is unfortunately just very unexpected, but we'll get the ones that have the best lead time when we order it. So I think it's worth if we, you know, still needed to pay a little bit extra. We're doing that now just to expedite stuff so that our teams have it. So any way we can mitigate the risk of reliability and not being in service, we're doing it right now. It's just a very interesting time in the market globally.
Understood. So what do you think the risk of us having, you know, a few weeks come back and say, well, we weren't able to sign contracts with the vendors because of the volatile market? Or is everybody pretty comfortable that in a couple of weeks, when we sign the contracts, the pricing, they will hold the pricing?
Yeah, we're comfortable, yeah, because when we sign, we're gonna allow them to make that first adjustment instead of waiting. So that makes them feel more comfortable and able to move forward.
And just the last comment, just a minor correction in a write-up, because when I read it, I kind of got what the meaning was, but it didn't make sense. In background and recommendation, the third paragraph, right where it says, Stuart Irby were not willing to move forward without pricing increases. And the second part of the sentence I didn't understand. And the request for JEA to revisit the price adjustment methodology found in the solicitation. So they were not willing, so I was trying to figure out what the second
what
part
that meant. So what that means was in the solicitation, we weren't going to allow for a market pricing adjustment until 3 months into it. So they wanted us to revisit that methodology and work with them to do it at the time of signing, instead of making them wait. Because what would happen is, you know, the prices they gave us when they submitted this back in May are already obsolete. And if we made them hold those pricing when we signed the contract and put our first very large order in, they also know that we have very large orders coming. They know the amount of money that they're going to lose. And so if we allow them to adjust at the time of signing and when we place that order, you know, it should align with the market and they'll feel more comfortable filling that versus the loss they already know they're going to get hit with, because the market's just it's changing so rapidly. I mean, a lot of these, when we have current contracts, we go to place orders, the pricing is going up so much from what we had on contract, and this is happening across the board with our other contracts. So it's not just on the electric side, it's the water side, it's the fleet, I mean, anything you can think of, they're all having issues. But what's happening is their manufacturers can only hold the pricing for a day. So they go to put a order in and they said, well, if you're going to, this is the price and we're locking this price in, and you have today to decide. And so, and a lot of them are like 60% higher than the contract pricing that we have on contracts. So the way we're mitigating that is working with the vendors they have to show us backup. They have to show they've gone to multiple manufacturers. We have to see that the market's really doing what they're saying. And then we're meeting them in the middle. So we're not taking on, you know, the total market increases, but we are helping them with about half. So we're readjusting at the time of orders on some of these contracts that are just, you know, are just out of control from a price increase standpoint. And that's just so we can even get the materials. If we don't work with these vendors, they're just pushing us to the bottom of the pile. I mean, we aren't their largest customers. So even though we are the 7th largest muni, we are not a big fish. We're a little fish in these ponds. So it's definitely a supplier market right now, and they're not making money either. I mean, and that was the point. I'll meet you guys halfway, but we're not going to take the full increase on.
So to make that sentence more clear for me, so would it be fair to say they weren't willing to go with prices increases and they rejected the request JEA to revisit the price adjustment? It's just a word or something missing in there to complete the sentence.
Sure. Yeah. Haley, did you get that? Or Lynn? I can't remember who's helping us today. I think it's Lynn, yes. Right? Okay. All right. Yes, we can adjust that. Hi, of course. That's the easiest question you guys have asked me. Yes. I can say yes to that. I like the yes questions. Any other questions or comments? All right, I will ask for a motion to approve award number 5.
This is Ricky, so moved.
Stephen Dapp, second.
Thanks, Stephen. We'll roll call through the committee to approve award number 5 with the minor adjustment language. And I will start with Ricky Erickson.
Approved.
Stephen Dapp.
Approved.
Hai Vu.
Approved.
Joe Arfano. And Jordan Pope.
Approved.
Thank you. Jordan, you got to sit in a fun awards committee this week. Thanks for joining us.
That was an interesting one.
Wasn't it? Yep. Make sure you fill Laura in. I'm sure you'll get all of that right. I hope you took notes. All right. So our entire agenda is approved for June 10th. Is there any other business to come before the awards committee? All right, seeing none, we're adjourned. Everybody have a wonderful Thursday and a very safe weekend. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Jenny.
Thank you.